Alrighty, you guys, so this video is going to be a little bit different. Well, not really much of a different video, but it is going to be about craw baits versus bluegill baits versus shad baits. Now, obviously, if you've read the title, you know what it's about. But basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys some of the best craw baits that I've caught fish around here on, some of the best bluegill baits that I've caught fish around here on, and the best shad baits that I've caught fish around here on. Now, these baits will work just about anywhere where bluegill, craw, or shad, whichever one you want to pick, live. I got jigs and soft plastics for the craws. I got top water for a bluegill. Got a crankbait, swim bait, a chatterbait, stuff like that for the bluegill. And there's only one lure. Actually, there's two, but I know this one over here works because I've gotten some bites on it. But there's only one bait in here that I have not used enough because I accidentally gave it to my brother and completely forgot about it a long time ago, and have just now recently got it back from me because I lost a bet. And he got to pick whatever lure he wanted, but he took that one. And I convinced him to give me it back. But anyway, so we're going to start with the craw baits because there's less craw baits than there is the other ones. So the first bait that I got here is a little square bill, which is the only square bill I own that is a crawfish color. Little Excalibur, what is the color? What is it called? XCS 100 is what it's called. It's basically like a 2.5 or a 2.0, whatever, or I think it's 2.0 is what the size is. But yeah, it's like in a fire tiger craw color. It's got a black back and green sides and a little bit orange. It's a really good color. Then, got a little soft plastic craw and a wobble head. That there works good. Then the early summer, or not early summer, but early spring. That there's just a black and blue craw something by Yum. It was like $1.96 for the package, so I decided I was going to buy it. And I took the legs off the side to give it a little bit less action. The claws give it a lot of action to it. That there works pretty good. I've got some Bama craw colored ones like that. I actually found them. I found two of them. And they've been torn up because I caught fish on them. But that there works the same. Then, this here mainly is for Texas rigs. These two here are. One is like a beaver style bait. Basically just this here is a Strike King rodent that I put in the dying chamber is what I call it. And it's with a bunch of red worms, and it kind of looks redder now. So it's a good craw imitation. Then a California craw colored Pit Boss made by Berkeley. Those there work really well, especially for flipping and pitching. Those work really well. Surprisingly, the best color that I've found that works really well around here for like craw imitations is something along the lines of a California craw color, which is kind of funny because we're in Illinois, nowhere near California. But if you take one of these California craw colored Pit Bosses and put it next to a crawfish, like when you find out in your yard, they look relatively the same. This here's got a little bit more red in it, but really that red helps it. Then I got a little shaky head with a pumpkin colored craw. Now this here works really well in the spawn, but it also works well in after the spawn and before the spawn. So yeah, this is basically just a 3/8 ounce football head shaky head. Then, of course, I got to put this in here. I think everybody fishes them. Every bass angler fishes them. And that is just a standard jig. This here is a Strike King Premier Pro Model jig, I believe. I don't have the package with me. But I believe this is a Premier Pro Model flipping jig. But, the head can be used for flipping, football head type using, casting and stuff like that. It's got rattles in it as well, and I got that paired up with a green pumpkin Strike King Rage Craw. So that there is the last craw bait. So next, I'm going to talk about the bluegill baits. Now around here, bluegill baits don't work as well as shad baits. I think that's just because of the water clarity. But these here, except for this one that I'm going to show you first, I've caught fish on all the other ones. So the first one is this little deal here, which is a hard swim bait. A hard plastic Z9 perch bluegill swim bait made by Bass Pro Shops. That there's a really good imitation, but I haven't used it very much. I've only made like 3 casts with it. Then, now these here I have caught fish on. First one that I have to show you is this little Pop R made by Rebel. This is the original style Pop R, the original size. This is in a foxy shad color, I believe is the name, but it really mimics bluegill really well. When I'm seeing bass blow up on bluegill up along the bank, I will throw this and I will catch fish 99% of the time. It's got the feathered treble and everything. It looks really good for a bluegill imitation. Then a green pumpkin chatterbait. This here is a Strike King. What is this called? Rage Blade, I think is the name of it. It's got like a plastic bill, which kind of helps it with the vibration. And so yeah, it's pretty good. You know, I paired it up with like a Strike King Game Hog with the twister tails, and have not gotten this trailer, have not tried this trailer on it yet, but I think it looks pretty good. Then another one, since I had the wobble head over there, I thought this one here would be good as well. This here imitates a bluegill or a crawfish, but it imitates a bluegill a lot more. That is a green pumpkin rage bug on a wobble head. Now what I'll do with this is I'll cast it out and I will basically let it go to the bottom and then let it sit there on the bottom for a few seconds and basically kind of pump it up a few times and then just kind of slowly reel it like on the edges of grass lines. This here works really well for like a bluegill imitation. Another bait that I love to throw, weightless mainly. This here works for bedding bass, for deep water bass, you know, like on a jig head, or it can work really well on shallow bass, you know, weightless rig, just working it like a fluke. And that is a green pumpkin tube. I love those things for imitating bluegill and stuff like that. Another bait is a Strike King 1.0 square bill. Now, I do not, this is the only square bill I own in bluegill color, so I had to include it because I thought that, you know, it looks a lot like a bluegill, and I've caught a few fish that were chasing bluegill on this. So, you know, it is a good bait. You know, I like it a lot. Next is the shad baits. Now, everybody fishes shad baits, no matter if you have shad in your water or not. You know, everybody owns a few shad baits, and I own a lot of them. So the only one that I have not caught a fish on yet this year is this here, the Big Easy swim bait made by Gambler. You know, it is a very big swim bait, and I am really looking forward to having some bites on this, because I think it will get some bigger bites. Then, oh boy, I got these treble hooks stuck together. Come on. Okay, got them unhooked. So, next we will talk about one of my former favorite baits, and it still is a really good bait. You know, I caught one of my biggest 5-fish limits ever on it. I actually weighted, I think it was close to 15 or 16 pounds. And for a 5-fish limit around here in this part of Illinois, that's pretty good. Especially just for being in ponds. You know, they were all close to 3.5 pounds. They were good size. I had one little bit smaller one, and that is on a Z-Man, the original chatterbait in white shad color with a Zoom Super Fluke swim bait, or Super Swimming Fluke. That's what it's called. Couldn't think. Next is another little 1.0 in the sexy shad color. Now the crankbaits that I own that I use for a fish around here are silent. They do not have rattles. Now I do have some with rattles, you know, some of the deeper diving ones, but the ones that I use a lot more, you know, like the square bills, I will 99% have silent ones. I think I only got 2, I think, that have rattles in them. But the reason why I throw those silent ones is because, you know, a lot of people throw square bills nowadays. especially ever since Kevin Van Dam won that Bassmaster Classic on one. A lot of people like throwing square bills, and most people like rattles. I really don't. I think that the bait is going to be good enough itself, so I throw silent square bills. Next, I got to throw topwater in there. Now I also have another topwater that I did not get out, but one is a little popper. This is a cotton cordell popper, which has got a bigger mouth. Now this bait, I really have gotten to love this bait because you can walk it super easy. If you're going out and you have, if you don't really want to go out and throw your big tackle for bass, you take a little bluegill ultralight rod with this topwater, you're going to have some fun because this thing is easy to cast with any setup. You take a little ultralight bluegill rod and you cast this thing, you're going to cast it a mile, especially if you have like a 10-pound braid or a 15-pound braid. You're going to cast this thing a mile. And it's a relatively light bait, when you're holding it, but man, you can cast it a mile. And it's got a real feather tail, not no fibers, it's got real feathers. And this thing will flat catch bass, especially because of how small it is. It's smaller than my finger. Then, I had to include this because of, I made a video on it a while back, and I've already caught a fish with it, and that is the S-Waver, the River to Sea S-Waver. Now this is in Party Crasher color, and I've already decided that when I get some money, I'm going to buy another one because this thing will get you bites. I fished it for over an hour. When I watched some YouTube videos on it, they were all telling me to fish it slow. Basically, just let it sink down a few inches and then just reel it real slow. Don't listen to those videos. I mean, you can do that. I'd done that for over an hour and didn't even get a single bite. And on my first cast, with one cast I started burning it. On the first cast I did that, I had 2 bites almost instantly. Then I think since when I started burning the bait, reeling really fast, I actually ended up, after I started doing that, having like 16 bites. And I only caught 1 fish, which I guess I can blame on the size of the bait. I don't really know. Maybe they just didn't get the hooks. Maybe they were biting the tail. Maybe they were hitting it head first and not getting hooks. Maybe I just wasn't setting the hook when I should have. Matt from Tactical Bassin said that once you start doing those big swim baits, if you start fishing swim baits like that, you're going to have to learn exactly when the hook set. As soon as you feel that tap, you're supposed to hook set. When I went out there and started getting bit, that thing completely blanked. I couldn't remember it. But, I think I just it was my fault that I didn't catch those fish that I was getting bit. So, yeah. So, I had to include that. I've already caught like a 2-pounder on it. So, yeah. Anyway, so there is the video. Had some crawl baits, some shad baits, and some bluegill baits. Hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure you smash that like button. If you do like the video, like I already said, make sure you like it. Comment down below if you have any suggestions for my next videos. Right now is the youth gun season, so I can't go hunting right now, mainly because I don't want to have to wear orange, because I know the deer can see orange. So yeah, I may do like a video sometime doing like a hunting story or a crazy fishing story video, or I may just go out and try to talk my dad into going fishing again. He usually says, once deer season starts, it's time for hunting. I mean, it's like probably 65, 70 degrees outside right now. It's not really good hunting weather anyway, so hope you guys like this video. Like I said, like it, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.